So this is my 5th class. I'm doing letters from the Rebbe and the Friedrich Rebbe in this volume of Igros Kodesh, and I'm going in chronological order now. The Friedrich Rebbe writes to the Rebbe on the 25th Chavav Tevis Tafresh Tzadik, Marbis Mechtavav Haruchim, the many long letters, Bala Yilyedes Rab, many pages, Oi Terem Gebalti Oisam, I haven't gotten them yet, Ukanira Achet Oi Terem Nichtav, apparently were not yet written. I told you about this. The Friedrich Rebbe is complaining, he's asking the Rebbe for letters, and the Rebbe is not answering him. So the next page it says like this, same date, Yud Ches Shvat. Your letter from the 26th of the last month, that means this previous letter that I just read, I got with great delight and thank you. Visibas iksivasi. The Rebbe is defending himself. He's writing to the Friedrich Rebbe. The reason I'm not writing you any letters, it's obvious, even if I don't say this, move in Laihu, the Rebbe understands. This is our Rebbe writing to the Friedrich Rebbe. It's hard for me to find in my own life interesting events to write about. And to fill a page with information that's immaterial, it's trivial, to write letters just for the sake of writing letters. Why should I steal the Friedrich Rebbe's time for this? And certainly the Friedrich Rebbe, when you asked me to write letters, didn't mean I should write trivial things. And that's why he doesn't write. The Rebbe says to Friedrich Rebbe, I have nothing interesting to say. And boring stuff, I don't want to bore you. And then the last line of this letter, I also told you about last time, and the substance and the quality of the precious pearl that you gave me, terem ivanti pirushema. I don't know what you're talking about yet, and I told you this already. This was the Rebbe, the Friedrich Rebbe asked the Rebbe, do you realize the precious gift I gave you? And it goes back a few times, back and forth, until the Friedrich Rebbe finally says, I gave you my daughter. I gave you my daughter. Here's another letter. From the Rebbe to the Friedrich Rebbe, it's dated Beis Nisan Tafresh Tzadik. Neide li, I don't know what Lamed Pei stands for. I just found out this week, Ki Nesar Avi, the Rebbe writes a letter to Friedrich Rebbe in 1930. My father was arrested. Avi Ravagon v'chassid shlita. The Rebbe says to the Friedrich, my father was arrested. B'tchayni v'tzipiyasi la'Hashem. I trust and I hope to Hashem. Sheitzi'enu yom melech they're going to let him go. And soon Hashem should redeem them all from their difficult situations, and the letter is signed Chosnei. But here's a fascinating piece of girls. This is a beautiful piece of Lubavitch history. I don't expect you to understand it fully, but I do expect you to appreciate it a little bit. A letter from the Friedrich Rebbe to the Rebbe, dated Yud Gimel Nisan. Betach dibarta mididenu harav Yehuda Shichya Eber. The Rosh Yeshiva in Tomchei Tmimim was a yid by the name of Yudel Eber, Harav Yehuda Eber. He was a Chassid Shiyit. He was a Tamim. And he was a very big Gaon. He was a very, very big Talmud Chacham. He was a very, very big Gaon. And he came from Russia. And the Friedrich Rebbe asks the Rebbe to talk to him in learning. They say, please tell me your opinion about Yudel Eber. You understand the request? So the Rebbe answers. Okay? Al davar Yude Eber nichya, regarding your question, says the Rebbe, that I should speak to Yudel Eber, and by the way, you must appreciate, Yudel Eber was older than the Rebbe, probably by more than a year or two. The Rebbe in 1930 was 28. Yudel Eber was probably close to 40. I'm going to guess. It's hard for me to make a resolution with a certitude. Because we only had short conversations that were superficial. Aval, however, this is the Rebbe writing to the Friedrich Rebbe, his Mevinus on the Lubavitcher Rosh Yeshiva. One thing is immediately apparent, which is good. The way he learns is to explain the Gemara locally, often art. He doesn't look for kashas and for proofs from far away. He learns the appropriate way to learn. When you learn a Gemara, don't worry about the whole Shas. Do the page that you're learning and try to understand it locally. Listen to this. There's one other thing that I find in the Yudel Rebbe that I want to share with you. That I did not find in him B'meshach eis diborenu, the whole time we talked. Listen, kids. Mitzios, Hageios, V'hargoshas Atzmei. I'm talking to a big Talmud Chacham. And I didn't find the slightest bit of gaiva and feeling himself. V'harei habeis I motza b'ma'od ma'od. To find a person as learned as he is, who has no yeshes, has no Hargoshas Atzmei at all, is very rare. So the Rebbe writes to him, I don't know how big a land than he is, but he's a chassid, yeah? And then it says, these are just superficial notes. I asked him that he should give me his written chedushim, should examine them. But this is the Rebbe's Mevinus and Chassidish Rosh Yeshiva. We didn't talk enough, he says, but he has no gaiva. And that's the truth of the matter is, it's amazing. Now, another letter. The date is Vov Oder Tofresh Tzaddik. That means March 1930. I just received a message through a telegram. My younger brother smuggled himself out of Russia. This is Leib. You saw that, your Leib. Leib's brother, Label. He got out of Russia and he immediately told the Rebbe he's out of the country, and the Rebbe immediately told the Frierdiker Rebbe, Label is safe. He's already out of the country. In detail I don't know yet, because I'm immediately informing the Rebbe about this. This fact that Label is out of the country makes it a little bit easier for Yitzias Avi V'Deidi Ubeisam Yichus Abedina. It makes it a little bit easier for my father and my uncle and their families to leave the country. But on the other hand, it's more dangerous for them because if the government finds out that Label snuck out of the country, they can hold them accountable. I found that very interesting that the Rebbe says, my brother just left the country and we have a date. I love this. I told you about this already. I just get such a kick out of it. The Frierdiker Rebbe asks the Rebbe, how are you doing and how's life? The date is Tzadik Beis, 1932. When did they leave Russia? In 1927. That means they were out of Russia more than 4 years. Yeah? So he writes like this. Oide ala shayla lishleimenu. I thank you for asking how we're doing. Shutayda l'Hashem shalom, it's good. But then the Rebbe writes to the Frierdiker Rebbe, listen to this, okay? You tell me if this is honest or this is hiding something. Al davar seder hayom kavua, regarding my regular seder hayom, hine mibayim mirussia, from the time that I left Russia 4 years before, adayin lahigayti lazeh, I haven't yet achieved the normal seder. Yes, I must admit that having a regular schedule, there are many advantages in having a regular schedule, and especially to keep my time well, to having a regular seder. So the Frierdiker Rebbe asks the Rebbe how he's doing, and he asks the Rebbe, does he have a regular schedule, and how is his learning? The Rebbe says, we're doing fine. I don't have a regular schedule, and I wish I did. I know the advantage. And then he says like this, the Rebbe, when the Rebbe was bar mitzvah, he knew the Shas backwards and forwards by heart with the commentaries. And he's writing to the Frierdiker Rebbe, I'm learning Masechta Bava Basra. I don't really have a regular time for it. And this alone makes me worry. I cannot delve deeply and learn with a little bit of depth. Come on, Rebbe. Really? Mamish. He can't learn. Even if my mind is too tired, or because my brain is too scattered. Girls, forgive me for saying this. I don't believe this for 1 second. The Rebbe couldn't learn. Yeah, pizar nefesh, his mind was scattered. What you're seeing here is the Rebbe answering the Frierdiker Rebbe, but Pashat hiding from him. This is hard to understand, right? You have parents, right? If you do something good, you want them to know. You want them to be proud. Well, your father's the Rebbe, it just does, there's different rules. And this letter with these few lines, I find very, very fascinating. Next, this is a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe to the Rebbetzin, which is dated 1933. Truma. It's 33. Truma is, let's figure, February. The beginning of 33. They were still living in Berlin. Hineni Makava, I hope Ki mekayim haftachasi, that you're going to keep your promise to me. Limnoya atmacha meheluchim yesedim, from walking in the street as little as possible. Vashem yizbarach yishmer oisecha, Hashem should guard you. Ves achiv sheri besarichi, and your brother. Ves kol vachein b'nei Yisrael sheyichi begor, and all the other Jewish people begash me seberuchnius. Kindalach. Hitler came to power in 33, Gimel Shvat. And that's when they began to physically attack Jews in the street. The Rebbe says to the Rebbe, you promised me you're not going to walk the street extra. Please tell me that you're keeping the promise. Don't wander the streets. And he mentions specifically the Rebbe's brother. You know that there's a rumor, it's more than a rumor, that the Rebbe's brother Label was someplace in Berlin, and they were rallying, and they did the Hitler salute, and he refused to salute, and they beat him to pulp. They beat him up. They beat him up terribly. I did this help. Here's another letter. The letter is dated Chafei Eder Reish Tzaddik Gimel, 1933. You may or may not know that the Rebbetzin had a younger sister. Her name was Shendel. She married a man whose name was Mendel Hodenstein, Menachem Mendel HaKohen Hodenstein. Hodensteins are Schneersons. Mendel's mother's name was Chaya Mushka. She was the daughter of the Rebbe Maharash. That means Mendel Hodenstein, who was the Frierdiker Rebbe's son-in-law, was also the Frierdiker Rebbe's first cousin. Mendel Hodenstein's mother and the Rebbe Rashab were a brother and a sister. Okay?
Two brother-in-laws that were the same name.
Menachem Mendel, but he was Menachem Mendel HaKohen, he was Menachem Mendel not HaKohen. Mendel Hodenstein married to Shendel, and a very, very short time after the wedding, they moved to Paris. And the four of them lived in Paris together. Okay? When Mendel Hodenstein married Shendel, Rebbetzin Shendel, he was clean-shaven. By the time the Holocaust came, there's pictures. He had a full beard. He became a Chassidish Yid in Paris. Now, how do you become a Chassidish Yid in Paris? Simple. I'm reading you two lines, okay? Please tell me in detail how you organize yourself. They had just moved to Paris. How you organize yourself in Paris. Ubakasha gedoyla, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes to the Rebbe, I'm asking you greatly. Lekarev es chosni gisoscha haramam sheyichi hakoyin. Please be Makarev, my son-in-law, your brother-in-law, Menachem Mendel HaKohen, bekiruv pnimi, with a pnimi is the kiruv. L'daber ben Yonatera v'chasidus, to speak in Yonatera and chasidus. V'gam l'kvei is man l'umad yachat, to make a time to learn together. This is a piece of Lubavitch history that maybe, I don't know, there's rumors. They lived together. They were very close. The Rebbetzin Chaya Mushka and her younger sister, Rebbetzin Shendel, were, you couldn't be closer. Two sisters couldn't be closer. They lived near each other. They were very close. And apparently the Rebbe gave Mendel Hodenstein all the time in the world. They became very close friends. They became very, very close friends. And that was a Makarev gewesen. Pasha Kipshute, that was Makarev him. The story, of course, was that when the war started, you know this, right? They went back to Poland. They were in Paris. And if they had stayed in Paris, but Derech HaTeva, there was a good chance they would survive the war. His mother was still alive. Chaya Mushka Hodenstein was still alive, and they went back to be with her, and they were killed. They had an adopted son. They never had children. Shendel didn't have children either. They adopted a son from one of his siblings who had passed away, and they were raising this little boy. When the war started in 1939, they went back to Poland to be with his mother. And the daughter of the Rebbe Maharash, who was killed, I think, in Treblinka or Bergen-Belsen in Tafshin Gimel in 1942. But this is a little piece of history. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes that the Rebbe spent time with him, be Makarev him, and they were incredibly close, those four, the two men and the two sisters. No, he didn't say he wasn't from. He was a little bit more modern. You know, a beard doesn't mean not from. He was a little bit more modern. But the Rebbe had him stark Makarev gewesen. Here's another thing, and I guess, what time is it? I got 9 more minutes. Okay, here's a very interesting thing. The Frierdiker Rebbe came out of Russia, right? The Frierdiker Rebbe came out of Russia. What did he do when he came out of Russia? He settled in Latvia, Riga, Latvia. Why did he settle in Riga, Latvia? because that was the country that gave him neutralization. The Latvian government helped the Frierdiker Rebbe leave Russia. There was a chassid whose name you've probably heard, Mordechai Dubin. He was a member of the parliament in Latvia. He was instrumental in saving the Frierdiker Rebbe's life. He moved to Latvia. He lived in Latvia for about 5 years, 6 years. The entire time that he lived in Latvia, his stationery reads, the Frierdiker Rebbe stationery reads, temporary residence. Know what that means? For 6 years, the Frierdiker Rebbe lived in Latvia, undecided where he's going to move. The Frierdiker Rebbe traveled a lot. He was all over Europe, Eastern Europe and Western Europe. He was in America. He was in Israel. The Frierdiker Rebbe was traveling the world trying to decide where he was going to settle. Okay? He made the decision to go back to Poland, to go back to Eastern Europe, to go back to a poor country rather than a rich country. The history goes that it took 5 years for him to become a Latvian citizen. He left Russia in 1927. It takes 5 years to become a citizen. Literally the day after the Frierdiker Rebbe became a Latvian citizen, he moved to Poland. B'derech hateva, it saved his life. I had a teacher who told me that when the war started in 1939, he went to the Frierdiker Rebbe's apartment to get money and advice. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, go to Russia, go east. And those who went east, went to Vilna, survived the war. They ended up in Shanghai, they ended up in China, Japan, and then in Shanghai. And then after the war, they came to America. So he told us that the Frierdiker Rebbe's door had a sign on the door which said, the people living here are Latvian citizens. Because the Germans at that time were not at war with Latvia, and they were honoring their treaties with other countries, and that's part of what saved the Frierdiker Rebbe's life, okay? The day the Frierdiker Rebbe became a Latvian citizen, he moved to Poland. I want to read to you 3 paragraphs from a letter from the Frierdiker Rebbe about his decision to move to Poland. Ata, now, I shall tell Hashem that thank God, Devar hanesinos halatvi b'mikeach halapel. I'm already a citizen of Latvia. Hineni mekavel Hashem yizbarach. I'm hoping to God, lahoitzi machshavti ha'tovet, to satisfy my good thought. Bidvar ha'atoko lepoilin latzloch. I want to move to Poland. Kifi ha'omer b'mechtavi, as I wrote in the letter, lebiti ha'yikorer ha'yoschak v'datichta, what I wrote to your daughter, which is the next letter after this one, that the Frierdiker Rebbe writes in the Rebbetzin Chayamushka, that I want to move to Poland. Now, it's understandable that this matter, to do it correctly, I have to organize myself and plan it properly, and then I can move. Why is he moving? He's living in Latvia. Why is he moving to Poland? The condition of the yeshiva Temchapimim in Warsaw. Beruchni is spiritually, Bishanazu this year, Teidel Hashami Mu'ulat on a very high level. Me'asher Hoya Bishnasayim Bishanam Milafonim, as it was last year and 2 years ago. Obeys it Hashem Yizbarach, with Hashem's help, Yeshmokim Beruchni, there's a lot of spiritual space. Lahagdil Ulaharchet, make bigger and broader, Be'ez Hashem, with Hashem's help. As Amifla Zeh Temchapimim is doing well, I want it to be bigger and better. Now, Asher Be'emes, this is the key point. The truth is, Hinizehu atachlis v'ha'ikir, the most important thing. Ikra v'sharasha, the kela, the root, and the core and the root of everything is Temchat Mimim. V'anorayim b'muchash, we see vividly, Asher adav v'rakein, this is how it is. V'ashtei ha'ish, fortunate is a person. Asher einav pekuches lahakir ha'inyan azeh, that has open eyes to see this. V'kasherani oise, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes, when I make cheshbon kotzet, a short cheshbon, bein nebila bein atmi, between me and myself, hineni megageya gaguim pnimiyim v'atzmiyim mamish. I long, with a longing that comes from the deepest depths of my neshama, liyes ba'ahala usviva shel Torah, to be in a tent and an environment of Torah. Baalei mada, people who know Torah, b'yadiyah nechayno, who started with a sufficient and thorough knowledge. Ubali avoid the dafka, and those who are working on themselves to become better people. The Rebbe says, you know why I'm moving to Poland? I want to be near Temchat Mimim. That's what he writes. When I think about it, I say to myself, what's life about? Life is about Torah, yeshiva. And the Frierdiker Rebbe writes, I want to be in an environment of Torah, and that's why I picked myself from Latvia and I'm moving to Poland. Now I want you to understand, the Frierdiker Rebbe comes to America, yeah? The Frierdiker comes to America, what does he do? He settles in New York City, not exactly Temchat Mimim. This letter is 1933 or 34, yeah? 33. The Frierdiker comes to America, and he becomes a different man. He's living in Poland, and he says to the Rebbe, I thought about it, and I want to be near yeshiva. I want to be near Torah, I want to be near Chassidus and Pnimius, yeah? 7 years later, he moves to New York, and what happened to all those dreams? The Frierdiker came to this country, and he forgot all of these dreams. Because it became a question of Pekuach Nefesh. When the Rebbe lived in Europe, the Frierdiker lived in Europe, he worried about Temchat Tmimim. Now, it's not like he came to America, he didn't worry about Temchat Tmimim anymore, but he had a much more pressing issue. I mean, you know the story. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, which is the richest place in New York? He told him Brooklyn. Yeah. Which is the richest place in Brooklyn? Told him Crown Heights. Good. Which is the fanciest street in Crown Heights? Eastern Park. Good. That's where I want to live. None of his Hasidim could live in Crown Heights. It was too expensive. The next line is fascinating. The date of the letter is Tzaddik Gimel, which means that the Rebbe is 30 and a half. No, he's 31 years old. Our Rebbe, Zogezozan, the Rebbe Shlita, writes to the Frierdiker Rebbe a question, which is a very interesting question. And we don't have the Rebbe's question, but we have the Rebbe's answer. Bidvare she'eloscha b'inyan shminis she'besminis. The Rebbe is 31 years old.
This is the Frierdiker Rebbe's response.
And he had written the Frierdiker Rebbe a letter about Shminas Shebeshminas. The Gemara says that a Talmud Chacham needs to have a Shminas Shebeshminas of Gaiva, a little Gaiva. Now Shminas Shebeshminas is an eighth of an eighth. Right? How much is an eighth of an eighth? 1 part out of 64. Right? What's 64 minus 1? Right? How do you spell it in Hebrew? Gas. What does gas mean? Gaiva. Gas is Saruach. Yeah. The Rebbe at 31 years old, it's like maybe I'm a Talmud Chacham, maybe I need a little gaiva. So he wrote 2 letters, one to his father and one to his Rebbe at the same time. And says, teach me how to do Shminas Shebeshminas. I'm 31 years old, but the Rebbe knows Kol HaTeira Kula. What does the Rebbe not know? And he writes to his 2 greatest influences in his life. Teach me about Shminas Shebeshminas. So the Rebbe's father wrote him a long Megillah as an answer. The Frierdiker Rebbe has one line. Akava, I hope, B'Yisraeseinu b'simcha, when we meet face to face with joy, Avai lecha ba'al peh, I'll explain it to you orally. The Rebbe asked the Frierdiker Rebbe, explain to me, if I'm supposed to have gaiva, how am I supposed to have it? So the Rebbe's father writes him a long letter. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, we'll talk about it face to face. I wish I had more time because I got more to read. I'll see you when